Hello, and welcome to a lecture on radiation from a current moment. A current moment is the simplest possible distribution of electrical current. If we understand the radiation from the simplest possible distribution of current, then we can represent any other distribution of current as a superposition. If you do not feel confident in your electromagnetic theory, don't worry, this is actually quite simple, and I will walk you through it. So, this picture on the left is a picture of what I have in mind by a current moment. It is simply a little piece of current that exists nowhere except at the origin, and because it's current, it has to have a direction. And you will see that the direction here is along the z direction. The current distribution itself is described as follows. First, we use this notation delta J at R. And that is referring to a volumetric current density. Volumetric in the sense that it is a certain number of amps flowing through a certain amount of area. All right, that's what we mean by volumetric current density. The z hat here, of course, refers to the direction in which the current moment is pointing. The I naught here is the magnitude and phase of a sinusoidally varying current. So we are doing this in the phasor domain, and I naught represents the magnitude and phase of a current, and so it has units of amps. Delta L is a length, so it has units of meters, but be careful. This is not actually referring to a physical length. It is instead actually part of the magnitude. Now, many folks find this confusing. Simply just realize that the product of I naught and delta L is something that has units of amps times meters, or amp meters, and that's why we refer to it as a current moment, and not just a current. This will turn out to be the most natural way to represent current in the theorem I'm about to show you. So, we have the direction, z hat, we have the magnitude and phase of the current moment, which is I naught delta L, and then we have this thing, delta R. Delta R is sometimes referred to as a delta function. Here we're using this function delta R to indicate that the current moment is non-zero only at one location, in this particular example, the origin. So let's define the delta function. The delta function is defined to be identically zero anywhere other than the origin. That's what that line means. So we have to say something about what happens at the origin. Well, it's really awkward to say what's happening exactly at the origin. So instead, what we say is that if we integrate the delta function over a volume which includes the origin, then we'll call it 1. Right? So we bypass the awkwardness of the origin by simply saying that if we integrate over the origin, the result will be 1. This is exactly the same delta function that appears throughout signal processing. No doubt you've encountered it as an undergraduate in some signals and systems course, and this is a pretty useful technique. So you can see from this definition that the delta function has to have units of inverse volume, because when we go back up to this definition for the current moment up here, we see that we need units of inverse volume in order for the result to have units of volumetric current density, amps per meter squared. And that's, by the way, why we're integrating over a volume. So there are the basics of the definition of this current moment. Now, let's be careful. This particular current distribution cannot exist in isolation, right? We can't have current magically appear at the origin and then disappear, right? There must be additional current surrounding it such that Kirchhoff's current law, remember that means the current flowing into a node has to equal the current flowing out of a node, is satisfied at all points in space, right? But the utility of this is that we may view this particular little chunk of current as one piece, that is, as a building block, and then use the principle of superposition to determine the complete solution through the wonderful fact that an electromagnetic system is linear. Okay, so that's our definition for that little chunk of current. Now, the electric field intensity. You could just say the electric field, but we're being very specific here. Electric field intensity, something having units of volts per meter, which is radiated by this little chunk of current, is given by this expression. This is commonly derived in junior level electromagnetics. It's not difficult to do, but it's really not necessary for what we want, that derivation. So I encourage you to look at the derivation, but really this result should be all you need to continue on with the analysis we're going to do here. Okay, first, this equal sign. This is an approximate solution. It's an approximation to the exact solution, and it applies when the field point, that is the point at which we measure the electric field, is much greater than a wavelength away from the source, right? So within a wavelength or so, this is not going to be very accurate. There will be additional stuff going on. But if we get far enough away from the source, that is the current, then this is pretty accurate. And for many applications, the loss of accuracy is difficult to measure, to say the least. So this is quite suitable for many purposes, including ours. This here is the polarization. That's a unit vector pointing in the theta hat direction. We'll have a little bit more to say about that in a moment. But now we know the relationship between the direction of the electric field vector and the direction of the current flow. So that's what that is signifying. This chunk here is a constant. If you work out the units, and we'll say a little bit more about that in a moment, you find it has units of ohms per meter. And again, we'll come back to that in just a moment. Here is the magnitude and phase of the current moment, as we discussed previously. This factor we refer to as the pattern. Again, we'll come back to that in a moment. And then finally, we have this factor, e to the minus j beta r divided by r. We recognize e to the minus j beta r as representing a spherical wave, right? That's a wave which is propagating away from the origin in all directions. And when we divide by r, that gives us power density, which is going down as r squared with increasing distance from the origin. And further note the units, 1 over meters here, combined with amps per meter for the current moment, magnitude and phase, ohms per meter, and we combine all that, we get volts per meter as expected. So it's dimensionally consistent. Okay, so now returning to this factor, j eta beta divided by 4 pi. The mystery constant here is eta. Eta is wave impedance. That's the term we give it. It is the ratio of the electric field intensity magnitude to the magnetic field intensity magnitude. Now, electric field intensity has units of volts per meter. Magnetic field intensity has units of amps per meter. So we end up with volts per amps, or simply ohms. So this is why we refer to eta as being an impedance, because it has units of ohms. This is frequently misinterpreted as being a literal impedance or literal resistance, and I assure you it is not. It is not a resistance. It is simply the ratio of two quantities. It's a ratio of electric field intensity to magnetic field intensity, and that, for the particular choices of units that we use to describe the electric and magnetic fields, gives us ohms. So we call it an impedance only because it has units of ohms. It's simply describing the material in which the wave is propagating, and that's the real important idea. Wave impedance is a material's property. Specifically, you find in junior level electromagnetics that for a homogeneous medium, it is the square root of mu divided by epsilon. Mu being the permeability of the material, referring to its magnetic property, and epsilon referring to the permittivity of the medium, which is an electrical property. In free space, the value of mu is mu naught, a constant. The value of epsilon is epsilon naught. And we find the ratio of those two things, and after taking the square root, is 376.7 ohms, that is approximately, in free space. So when someone says that the impedance of free space is 377 ohms, this is what they mean. They are simply conveying a materials property, that is materials property for free space, which has this particular wave impedance. Now let's return to the sine theta factor that we have in the electric field intensity. We refer to that as the pattern in this case. If you plot sine theta, I think everyone realizes this, but let's do it just to be clear. We find as you increase theta from 0 to pi, you go from 0 to a maximum of pi over 2, and then back to 0 at pi. And what that's saying is that the electric field intensity is maximum broadside. We say broadside, if we go back to this picture, theta equals pi over 2 is in this plane, in the xy plane. So the electric field is maximum in magnitude in this plane, and it's minimum in magnitude along the axis, along the z-axis. That's what this picture is saying. Now that same picture is often depicted in polar form as follows. And this picture is the exact same picture I just showed you, except now in polar form. So here's the z-axis. Here is the rho axis. Rho means any direction perpendicular to z, right? So this is a picture you get in the x-axis. This is a picture you get for the y-axis, and so on. Once again, we see maximum magnitude in the rho direction, that is x or y or any direction perpendicular to z. And then we see what we'd refer to as a null along the z-axis. There is a zero electric field in the direction in which the current moment points, or in the opposite direction. We can also draw this picture in from the other perspective, where z is pointing up and out of the page. So this is x hat, this is y hat, and then sine theta doesn't change in this picture, so we get just a single circle, which is saying that in the xy plane, the electric field intensity doesn't change. We refer to this as being omnidirectional, but that's a term that is not really necessary yet. And then finally, let's talk about polarization. Polarization refers to the direction in which the electric field points. And we found that the electric field is pointing in the theta hat direction. And if we go back to the original coordinate system, theta hat points in this direction. Right, so theta hat is the increasing angular direction going from the z-axis to the xy plane. So the polarization of the electric field intensity is this direction in the xy plane. It's actually minus z hat in the xy plane, because that's theta hat. Right? Theta hat points from z hat down into the xy plane. So this often catches a lot of people by surprise. Remember, the current moment is pointing in the plus z hat direction, but the reference direction, as we refer to it, the reference direction of the electric field intensity, its polarization in the xy plane is minus z hat. In any other plane, theta hat takes on these directions, right? So it's pointing away from the z-axis, along the z-axis, and then in these directions as we move away. So that is really all you need to know about the electric field from a current moment. So the key ideas here are, what does it mean to be a current moment located at the origin, and then what is the resulting electric field intensity. From this, we can assemble very complicated radiating systems and then quickly determine their electric fields using superposition. That concludes this lecture.